Shalom.
So in Shemot chapter 4, just recapping, Moshe finally accepted the commission and headed back to Mizraim with Aharon by his side. Today we look at Shemot chapter 5. Can you go again? Okay. So in Shemot chapter 5, there's this quietness that Moshe had, and it turned into a loud confrontation where we see the message to let my people go. It's actually not received warmly by the King Pharaoh, because that seems to be an exploitation on the economy. So we'll read chapter 5 from verses 1 through to 5. So let me bring up chapter 5, Shemot 5. Let's get this on my screen. And it goes, and afterwards Moshe and Aharon went in and said to Pharaoh, "Thus saith the Creator Elohim of Israel, let my people go, so that they celebrate a festival to me in the wilderness." And Pharaoh said, "Who is the Creator that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I do not know the Creator, nor am I going to let Israel go." And they said, "The Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us. Please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness and slaughter to the Creator our Elohim, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword." But the sovereign of Mizraim said to them, "Moshe and Aharon, why do you take the people from their work? Get back to your burdens." Verse 5. And Pharaoh said, "See, the people of the land are many now, and you make them cease from their burdens." So there we have the interest of Pharaoh is jeopardized by the powerful will of the Creator. And the message is just one short and clear message: let my people go. Right? So what we're seeing here is that from chapter 4, we saw where Moshe and Aaron, they actually met with the elders. They met with the elders and they shared and decided how they're going to go ahead with bringing the message to Pharaoh. But by the time they are before Pharaoh, we're not seeing any mention of the elders. We're seeing just Moshe and Aharon. I don't know if it's because they got the elders that were with them are absent from the scene because they're either in fear, or just that the pressure from standing before a king was real to them. Right, so that may have been a factor why it's just the two. But the two, they did as they were told. The request is that they may go so that they may celebrate a feast in the wilderness. Right? And this is not a casual request. This is the Elohim of the Israelites taking a claim over his people's time, over their worship and over their bodies. Right? So Pharaoh, he is from a practice where they have many gods. And he may have made a quick check among the many gods that he had to see if there's any Elohim mentioned as regarding to that for the Hebrews. And his question was, who is this Elohim that you guys are mentioning about? I do not know him, and I won't let Israel go. I'm trying to figure out whether he really know that there is an Elohim, or is just a rebellious response? What do we think? Did he really know about the Elohim of the Hebrews, or he is just trying to be difficult? Right, that's my first consideration. And they didn't ask for just one day, but 3 days. And where we see that they mentioned the 3 days, they said, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. So Moshe and Aaron actually said, look, Elohim may fall upon us. By writing, the message should be, may fall upon you, Pharaoh, and your people. But just to be politically correct, and they're standing before royalty and dignity, they said, look, lest Elohim fall upon us. Right, so with pestilence, so they're actually using their words softly, right? So, but we see in verse 4, the response from Pharaoh was, why would you even suggest that the people take a vacation? Why would you suggest that you take the people from the work that I'm doing? So basically, he's actually accusing them, you're causing them to cease from their burdens. And it's very important to know that these people, all 11 tribes were enslaved except for the tribe of Levi, because we would have seen even the chapter 4 where Aaron could comfortably leave where he was and meet Moshe in the wilderness. So obviously the Levites, their functions were clearly not the same as the backbreaking labor of the other tribes, right? But Pharaoh, he actually saw the value of the Israelites' continuous labor, and he doesn't want to lose a single productivity hour. A lot of persons today are exposed to that kind of working conditions, surprisingly, in this day and age, where persons can't get their time off, persons can't even get a full lunchtime, bathroom break. And this is nothing short of human trafficking, right? And this is it sounds archaic, it's fitting of that time, but no, you don't expect that in today's day and age. As we study this chapter, I really want to share a question for our participation and the input. I want to know what this chapter shows us about confronting unjust power. Right, based on the confrontation of the two representatives, Moshe and Aharon, and the response from Pharaoh, is there anything that we can learn from confronting unjust power? All right. Well, for me, it shows that confronting unjust power begins with speaking the Creator's word plainly. They said, "Let my people go and let them serve a feast in the wilderness." They said it as it was. And even when the ruler dismissed it, or they knew that the ruler would have dismissed that kind of request, they were obedient to their commission, and of course it attracted an immediate backlash. They did not get relief at the same time, but these persons actually stood for what they were instructed to do. And it's very important that we copy this kind of approach when we are commissioned to confront evil. All right, I'll read from verses 5 through to, from verses 6 to 14. 6 to 14. And the same day Pharaoh commanded the slave drivers of the people and their foremen, saying, "You are no longer to give the people straw to make bricks as before. Let them go and gather straw for themselves." Verse 8. "And lay on them the required amount of bricks which they made before. Do not diminish it, for they are idle. That is why they cry out, saying, Let us go and slaughter to our Elohim. Let more work be laid on the men, so that they labor in it and not pay attention to the words of falsehood." And the slave drivers of the people and their foremen went out and spoke to the people, saying, "Thus says Pharaoh, I do not give you straw. Go, take straw for yourselves, wherever you find it, for your work shall not be diminished. And the people were scattered in all the land of Mizraim to gather stubble for straw. And the slave drivers were hurrying them on, saying, fulfill your actions, your daily matters, as when there was straw. Also, the foremen of the children of Israel, whom Pharaoh's slave drivers had set over them, were struck and were asked, why have you fulfilled your law in making bricks both yesterday and today as before? That's a question. It's very cold and heartless when I look at the response from Pharaoh. His response was like, you don't have any work to do. A matter of fact, make things harder for them. And one thing to point out in verse 6 is that the slave drivers were from Mizraim, and the foremen, or the supervisors on the site, they were actually Israelites, which we'll read later and see. So the command is one of a policy that was issued. Make them work harder. So let their own brothers supervise them and let them experience pain. That's what we see in verse 6. That's very brutal brutal. And to make it worse, you're not going to give them straw. Because the straw was very important. The straw is what would have been mixed with clay, right, to hold the bricks together. And now these people have to scatter out to gather straw throughout the land and to gather their own raw materials. We can only read about working conditions like this. I trust that nobody in this day is exposed to that kind of meanness. You are no longer to give them straw. And on top of that, verse 8 actually says, and lay on them the required amount of bricks which they made before. Do not diminish it. So in other words, don't let the quota drop. If they're to do 32 bricks per day, ensure that even though they have to take more time to go and look straw, let that continue to be. Bring the same number of bricks as before. And this is about money, trying to be profitable and trying to control, tightening things, and this is actually making the work more tedious for the Israelites. It keeps them very tired to talk about any feast or any covenant or about any worship. And that's just a shallow kind of thinking, though, that if they get more work to do, then they'll have less to talk about on the job. Any job that you have and the people cannot talk to each other, that would suggest something like a call center that, it's a form of modern day slavery where you work, you log in, you can't even carry a phone beside you, you put on your bag, you only have a fixed bathroom break. I doubt this was the original intention when the Creator said, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread, because more work was laid on them. But that's just fear's logic. If they have time to think and talk, they're lazy. So I'm trying to think that if this is his really way of thinking, or it's just that he is shallow in his thinking. Employers today demanding more output with fewer resources and squeezing the workers beyond what any 24-hour day can bear. And people must stand up and protect themselves, because we have families and we should spend family time. And it's very important that if we look out for things like these, and if it's happening, we need to talk and speak up strongly against it, just like how Pharaoh and Aharon, just like how Moshe and Aharon actually spoke about it. And the thing is that they were threatened. If they do not meet the quota, they would actually be beaten, right? And that in itself is just getting worse and worse. And the question that comes to my mind, the foremen were the supervisors. They are Israelites, and they are the ones to flog their own fellow Israelites if they don't meet the target, right? And that's we see in verse 14. It says, also the foremen of the children whom Pharaoh's slave drivers had set over them were struck and were asked, why have you not fulfilled your law in making bricks? both yesterday and today as before. So they have actually, if they don't do it, they're going to have to take the punishment for the Israelites. So in other words, the taskmasters will be actually flogging the officers who are the Israelite supervisors. Question: why does Pharaoh remove the straw but keep the same brick quota? Anybody could answer that for me? Why would he do that? Remove the resources. Go again?
To increase the burden, to make the work that much harder for them.
Yes, thank you. And I was thinking to make more money, but I think it's a burden is the thing. That's more like it. It's a burden. Maximum profitability and control, but he wanted to increase the burden.
Yeah, I was just about to say that it reminds me of profit. In this day and age, we talk about profit.
Capitalism.
So, a friend of mine who's in sales. Shalom, everybody. Shalom.
Shalom, sister.
I have a friend of mine who's in sales, and she talks about every time the quota increasing, and even in the banks too, where the profitability. So every time to get bonus, you have to have a certain amount of profit, and you reach to the profit, and it is like it shifts. It shifts every year. It shifts. So that you don't achieve it. So it just reminds me, the whole Pharaoh issue, it just reminds me of that.
Yeah, modern day.
Profitability. Modern day
Pharaohs. You know, it's so interesting that you mentioned the bank. When I was in the financial services, I had the same experience. You got targets that are in the millions, and within 3 months, a director goes to bed and wakes up in the morning and say, you know what, make it increase by 15%. And your officer, which is your manager, will come to you and say to you, and you ask your manager, what is the rationale behind this? That's what was given to me by the director. So they have to just continue it. So in other words, you're wondering if they see that it's inhumane, and you wonder, why did you actually end up working for these people? How could these people be so cold, right? And then they have their corporate governance images and the things that they give to charity, make it look like they're good and kind, but really and truly, they're practicing ill. They are in fact practicing ill. Next question is, what do we learn from the Israelites' foremen who are beaten? Right. They could have beaten the men, the laborers, but they beat the foremen. The fact that they actually took the beating suggests to me that they are brave and they're bold. And we understand that leadership under oppression is really a costly thing. So if you want to lead a protest, you have to prepare to actually take the consequences that come by it. And so we have our national heroes. Some of them stood up for the people, and they are not now. And a lot of them didn't have a good end because they represented the masses and they fought against the system. They tried to protect their people, and they actually suffered for it. So their compassion would have been tested because not many persons are going to be willing to take beating for somebody. But we see that these men, these officers who actually took the beating for the laborers, later when Moshe was selecting the 70 elders, these men became the true elders and officers in the Creator's service. So we must resolve to stand up for what is right and just at all times. Verses 15 through to 21. And the foremen of the children of Israel came and cried out to Pharaoh, saying, why do thou treat your servants this way? There is no straw given to your servants. And they say to us, make bricks. And see, your servants are struck between your own people, but your own people are at fault. But he said, you are idle. That is why you say, let us go and slaughter to the Creator. So now, go work, and straw is not given to you, but deliver the amount of bricks. And the foremen of the children of Israel saw that they were in trouble after it was said, you are not to diminish your daily amount of bricks. And when they came out from Pharaoh, they met Moshe and Aharon, who stood there to meet them. And they said to them, let the Creator look on you and judge, because you have made us loathsome in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants, to give a sword in their hand to kill us. What I'm seeing there basically is that the cry to Pharaoh actually has turned against Moshe. You're trying to do good for the masses, and it's not the first, because I think the last time he tried to defend an Hebrew from an Egyptian, somebody informed on him and told Pharaoh, and he had to run for his life. Right? And here a second time again, he's representing the rights of the people, and the people say, look man, they're even calling on the Creator name on him. Make the Creator judge between me and you. You make things harder for us. The four men actually went to Pharaoh, and they appeal as your servants. So the four men actually begging, hoping for pity, but they're asking for pity from the wrong person, as you see in verse 15. They're asking, cried out to Pharaoh, why do you think that Pharaoh is gonna drop? Obviously they don't know who Pharaoh is. They appeal as your servant. Oh, please help, have mercy upon your servants. There's no heart in that business. You see, in the business, there's no heart. It's only output nowadays. People want to make profits and make money. They lay out the unfairness, no straw, same quota. And what was Pharaoh's answer? His answer was simple. You're lazy. You're really lazy. So he labels their suffering as laziness and uses that as a confirmation to keep his cruel policy. And at the core, it's all about maximum productivity potential, squeezing every drop of labor from Israel's bodies for Mitzrayim's gain. And by this time, the four men would realize that they are in serious trouble. They have left Pharaoh knowing that the quota stands, and the beatings will continue. And there's no mercy coming from the throne of Pharaoh. So who do you think they're going to turn on to next? Who they're going to turn to next? Moshe and Aaron. And they complained, just like we had, there was a situation with Korah, when I think Dathan and Abiram, in that showdown with Korah, they turned their anger on the servant of the Creator. They turned their anger on Moshe, rather than looking at the event objectively. People who stand against Moshe in the wilderness story often come from the same spirit, men of name but misdirected. So we see those are big elders, that rebelled against Moshe. And here we have the officers that I was just complimenting for taking beating for the people. They couldn't take it anymore. They are real human beings, and they actually said, look man, they had to go to Pharaoh and say, they even invoke the Creator's name and blame Moshe. Creator, judge you because you have made us stink in Pharaoh's eyes. They call on his name but use it to curse the messenger rather than to confront the system. And this is the kind of system that we unfortunately find ourselves in. And we have to find a way to survive in it. And the question I'm posing right now is, why do the people turn on Moshe instead of on Pharaoh? Why do they turn on Moshe instead of Pharaoh? Because I think if Pharaoh is the one that is calling the shots and issuing the work orders, increasing the work orders, that's where they should put the revolt, the protest. But I know it's the pain. When you're in pain, you just want someone to blame. You just want to find your nearest target. Moshe is the one that they could see. He was one that they could safely blame him, and he would not retaliate, while Pharaoh feels untouchable. So the anger that should confront the system spills out against the servant being sent to bring freedom. And we must be prepared for this, that when we're helping people, it might bounce back on us in our face, unfortunately, and we might say, in our emotions, so never again we're going to try and help these people. But this is a part of the path of righteousness and service, and we have to stick to the cause. Last two verses. And Moshe returned to the Creator and said, the Creator, why have you done evil to this people? Why did you send me? For ever since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people, and you have not delivered your people at all. So this is a string of events one blame to another, and everybody's bouncing it off. The taskmaster beat the four Israelite foremen. The foremen take the beating, then they complain to Pharaoh. The Pharaoh run them, tell them, say them lazy, they're lazy, and now they go to Moshe, right? He turns and brings pain to the Creator. So this is what they should have done in the first place. When you're under your persecution and your problem, you should go to the Creator. Don't go to a man. A man is not going to see your pain and feel your pain and understand and empathize with you adequately. Right? So Moshe go to the Creator and said, man, why did you ever send me? You know? And it's a point in our life where we're going to see that our obedience is going to actually appearing to be backfiring on us. We have two decisions to make, and there's an easy way out and there's a hard way out, and the hard way is to be obedient to the Creator. And we do that, and we're going to feel the real pain for that, right? And so Moses make his case, set the timeline. Since I've come to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people, and you have not delivered your people at all. In human terms, it looks like zero progress. Nothing, no positive movement has happened, and it's just increased suffering and pain. And this is the honest prayer of a leader caught between a brutal empire above and a wounded people below. Moshe stays in the middle and chooses to wrestle with the Creator instead of walking away. That's a real big man. Right? What can we learn from Moshe's complaint to the Creator? Anyone want to attempt that? What can we learn from Moshe's complaint to the Creator? It's actually a question that we see the chapter ends on, where the Creator will answer, not with a quick fix, but with his name, his covenant, and his plan. So he can answer our honest questions. So when obedience seems to make things worse, the right move is not to pretend, but to bring our why back to him and wait for his answer, which in the next chapter will anchor us in his covenant name. So we're going to get the response in chapter 6, and I'm trusting that we stay tuned to this Exodus Shemot study, because I realize a lot of things that happened then still happening in this day, and we ought to be reminded how people dealt with it incorrectly and what was the right fix for it. So when we have the confrontation, we can deal with it. We have good examples. Moshe and Aharon, they stood before Pharaoh in the Creator's name, and they didn't soften out. They hardened. Pharaoh hardened his heart against the people, and the taskmasters enforce what they put economic value over human life. Can you imagine that? Beat them till they became so afraid, and when they appeal and they fail, they turn on Moshe and blame him for the misery. But still, I'm impressed by Moshe. He stood in the gap, and they took the frustration to the Creator, and he asked the Creator why. Right? So let us be bold, and let us be determined to actually bring our cares to the Creator. Go ahead.
Brother Asa,
Sister.
there is something here too, because Moses, to me, seems to have forgotten that before he left Canaan era, the Most High told him that he would harden Pharaoh's heart.
Oh, yeah.
So why is he asking the Most High these hard questions when he was told before that this is what was going to happen? Maybe not in detail, but the Most High told him that he's going to harden his heart.
Yeah. That's true, We're reminded, but it's like when you're feeling the pain, you forget everything else. When you're in the situation, it's just like a man has a sin that he doesn't overcome easily, and he said, yes, next time I'm going to do that. But the next time he falls for the same trap, and he does the same thing. And I think righteousness is a practice, right? It's something you have to continue doing to build your spiritual muscle. And I'm thinking that if this happened the second or third time, then Moshe might know that he must go straight to the Creator. But he actually did the right thing. It's just that he seemed to be complaining. Understand? He seems to have forgotten the caution that he got that he's Pharaoh is gonna refuse, and he'll have to tell him about his firstborn son for him to actually bend. Yeah, that's very important note. He forgot. Can't make up any excuse for him.
Brother Asa, may I just jump in here
Yeah.
and ask something or throw something in?
Yeah.
When I see how, to your point, a lot of the things that happened then, they're still happening today. And when I see how Moshe went to the Creator and is waiting on a response from the Creator, or waiting for the Creator to intervene in the situation, I must tell you, when I read over these scriptures with some different lens, I wonder if these things are there to subdue us. Let me tell you why I say that. If you in that situation, we ain't going to hear from Creator like how Moshe hear from Creator. And how I would have did do it in Christianity is take the battery, because you're waiting for the Creator to come through for you. And you're waiting and you're going to take the battering. And I honestly wonder sometimes if these things are there to just quiet us down so that we can go and, as you're saying, do as Moshe do. Go to the Creator, wait. That is what I sometimes wonder.
Yeah. We need to wait, man. We need to wait. Um, and that's why we get this story. I think we're at an advantage, I mean, we do not get a direct response like, oh, Moshe gets a direct response from the Creator. But I'm seeing where we having read this story and can have the opportunity to read over and over next year or so. We must be more sharp on our P's and Q's and be looking out for something like this and knowing how to respond, you know, that we don't blame the people who helping us, but we go straight to who we must go to, right? And remember that he never promised that it's going to be seamless and painless, but one thing is sure that his deliverance is coming through. Yeah.
And brother, that sounds very Christian. That is what them teach in Christianity. Wait, man, and
Wait,
sit here. I don't know if that really goes anymore. But anyway,
well, well, let's take the story, These children of Israel, they had to wait. I mean, they still had to go to look the straw, so it's not they didn't lie down and wait on a sheet, in the cold front. They actually got going, gathered the straw, tried to meet the quota, even though it seemed impossible. So, the wait that I'm talking about is wait on the deliverance, but not lying down, but continuing to obey the commands and do what we ought to do. And that's the slight difference between what others would do versus the Israelites. We continue to serve. We don't drop our hands and say, we don't do anything. Somebody's paid it all for us. No, it's not so. Our body's taxed, and we are exhausted to our limits.
I remembered when I was taught about the national heroes, and I remember also about the Maroon Wars that were fought here in Jamaica. And the people were being oppressed, yes, and Britain and all these other people were here, but they did not wait on a creator. They fought to deliver themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm wondering, what is it that we should do? Sit and take the beating, watch our children die, or should we actually stand up against a system that is oppressing us and fight for ourselves as well?
Well, the people I didn't really see in the story. Well, I have my answer, and I'll look at the story for the answer. The people,
Moses stood up for the Israelites. and that's why he had to leave Egypt. He fought.
Yeah. But you run away after a while too.
Well, there is the after he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day.
Yeah. But to just drop our hands at our side and be
So
beaten.
we should just sit and take the abuse because
Well,
these men they actually spoke out. It's only that Pharaoh was unreasonable and he increased evil upon them. But
yeah.
they tried to do something, you know. But like the Most High said to Moses, he was gonna harden Pharaoh's heart. So that in of itself was directly of the Most High because he has a plan.
Yeah. So we stick to the plan.
So how we apply that to today, you know, like what we're saying, where the people them piling on these ridiculous quotas on people and you know, how do we apply that today?
Well, we must always be looking to farm our own land and to just make our own
Right.
business and barter, and that's not going to happen when we are all scattered all over the Caribbean or over the world. We have to find persons that are like-minded, and it's going to be impossible. Nobody's going to be thinking exactly 6 out of 6 things like we do. So we're going to find that somebody's going to have a new moon day different from our new moon day. But yes, still this person actually follows the creator's strive to follow the creator, and we're going to have to work with those persons to actually combine our resources to be a powerful force to reckon with, and we're not going to sit down and wait for the creator to come to us. He had promised that he will come to in his time, so we just have to do what we have to do. We're not going to lay down and we're not going to turn the other cheek. We're not going to be any saps or sappers. If we can look one way, look the other way, and knock out the enemy and run away and come back, then we do that. Yeah,
Yes.
simple. Well, it is easier said than done, but I can tell you the more and more I read over this story here, okay, the more that I recognize that the system as it is set is not for us, and we have
Correct.
to make our exit plans sooner than later, because it's gonna push us out anyway. So enough time
Correct.
now.
Like I think Sister Sophia and I were talking yesterday about the importance of just not working for these people. You know, trying to carve out being in a way self-employed as much as they can, self-sustenance, just like you're saying, whether it is farming or growing our own food, because we will always be under Pharaoh's. We're now in Egypt again,
Yeah.
so we're going to really be feeling the hands of Pharaoh.
But there are some conveniences that they have provided for us that we are addicted to. The matches and the electricity and the
Mhm.
internet. Tell me now,
Mhm.
we don't have the capacity yet to actually substitute for those. And so when you
Mhm.
realize that now, and the AC and well, the heat
Mhm.
in the cold front and the AC in the summer, when we go into our bush and we do our thing, it's going to call for some technical skills and practice to actually know how to survive in those circumstances without feeling less than a person and the longing to go back to the bondage and the slavery. So we should be start looking at the things that we're comfortable about now, most comfortable about, and imagine how can we operate with those without these in 3 years. And yeah, a
But
matter
you
of
see
fact,
how Father in his wisdom has made, look at here now. He give us solar systems. It doesn't have no elaborate solar system either, you know. It doesn't be anything elaborate. His sun can provide the light that you need. You can harvest your own rainwater. There are ways around it.
suppose I tell you I've practiced not using any light in my room.
Look
I
at
mean,
that.
yeah, so there are other rooms, but I just believe that, there's gonna come a time when we're gonna need electricity so much. And I'm saying, I'm going to want to know how to operate without light. Do everything that I need to do in the daylight and rest when it's dark time. And yeah, so those are the things that we practice. I mean, it might seem ridiculous, at times, but at the end of the day, you have to learn to do without the things that make us most comfortable, so that when we are without it, we're not trying for it. As long as we can get sunlight, water, and rest, then we can also the plants that we grow can get that too, and we can survive off it. Yeah, and the communication thing, I don't know what I'm going to because I love the technology. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. Sorry. We need to communicate with our family abroad and yard. Yeah. But yeah, there was a time we were without it, so that's just that. All right, well that's it for chapter 5. He said, "For ever since I came, the Pharaoh speaking, and he has done evil to this, and you have not delivered your people at all." So it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. So let's see how it evolves. Anything else to share? All right, if not, then.